Hello everybody, this is Bitcoin Macro, and on this video guys I'm going to talk about exchange tokens. So I'm going to cover most of them, and although I'm not going to go too deep on each one of them, I'll try to give both fundamental reasons and technical reasons as to why I like these tokens. So I'm going to start with the larger ones, and please bear with me. I'm going to go with the smaller ones, which are, I believe, very hot right now. There are some gems in there, and unfortunately I want to cover a lot of them. In the past I had lots and lots of issues with my laptops and all that stuff because I got a new laptop. I tried to get some new software and stuff like that. A lot of them had issues with the recordings, especially with my older one. So some other circumstances as well had me push them a little back, and that's why I have to do them now. Unfortunately, some of them have already pumped a bit, but I do believe you're going to enjoy this content because I do believe there is plenty of juice in those coins as well. So first one, BNB, of course, the largest one, about $100 billion worth of market cap. Nice full cycle, came all the way back to where this nice run had started. And BNB had this nice run back then. Although Bitcoin was dumping, it was in a bear market. Binance Coin kept making new highs all the time, and that showed how much stronger it was from Bitcoin. This downturn showed how much stronger Bitcoin was at the time, but we all know how big Binance is, how important it is for crypto, how many things you can do with BNB, from staking. You can lend it, you can use it for fees, you can use it for your card, you can do all sorts of things with BNB. You can pay with it, you can vote for the Binance chain. It's not inflationary because although they don't actually ban the tokens that they get from the fees, they actually ban their own tokens. However, even that means that there is no inflation because they don't sell any of the tokens to any investors or in the open market. So that's not an inflationary coin. That's quite nice, at least in terms of investing, and that's pretty important in my opinion. So when it comes to BNB, we have had this very nice upside, very nice run so far. It's about 12x from that low versus Bitcoin, which is massive. But the thing is, right now shows no signs of slowing down, because once it broke above this, it turned the old resistance into support. Very key here, very key level. Also, this one was also pretty important when it got actually retested a little bit right there. If I just, let's say, pull on the daily or the 12-hour chart, so we did have a little pullback here as well. Nice consolidation above the key resistance there. That was the key level that held the price below it for about 9 months, or maybe a bit less. But right now I see no signs of that slowing down, because again, it's breaking above the highs, retesting the highs nicely, and it seems like it wants to push even higher again. Most newbies will get in, they will go on Binance. So of course Binance is the biggest one, and I do believe that 100 billion is not that much for such an exchange that has so many different products and just keeps on expanding, from NFTs to whatever you think about. So the next one, guys, is going to be OKB OKex, because at least in terms of market cap, that's the one that's next. So this one, now I have to say that this is not the only OKex token. This is not the coin for the OKex chain, because they have the OKT coin, which is something different, and they essentially have separated the one for use on the exchange and the one for use on their chain. So this one has also done pretty well, of course not as well as BNB, but if we assume that there was an airdrop for the OK chain, it probably has done pretty well because that other one pumped very nicely as well. But the truth is, I don't know how much better will it do from Binance chain, although it's much smaller at about $9 billion of valuation, because not only does it have potentially 10 times less users than Binance, but it also has that issue where it doesn't have the use cases Binance has. I don't know how they will expand. I don't know how well they could do. And at the moment, it does seem like a bit of an issue for the larger exchanges, at least, where Binance is the one dominating, and that's a bit of an issue. So for now, I wouldn't think they would potentially come down to these levels right here, but that was where the key breakout happened. For now, until I see that level here reclaimed and the price making new all-time highs versus Bitcoin, I'm not as interested about OKB. At least that's for this one. Of course, it looks nice to an extent, has had a nice cycle. Maybe if it breaks higher, it could fly, and this was just a massive accumulation. But in my opinion, there are better coins right now, because I don't want to buy something that's right at resistance, or at least it has had that issue where it swept the high and then failed to break higher. So here we have the launch of the OK chain. Had a pretty nice pump as well. So for those that potentially got the airdrop or these tokens, whichever way that happened, it had the 500% pump from the lows. So far it has looked pretty good. I'm surprised it hasn't done well, although at some point I had shared an idea where I said it could come all the way down to that level right there, because again, when you have that failure to make new highs after breaking above the resistance, it is a little bit of an issue, but it could go much higher. Now for this one, I don't have a market cap. It's not listed on many exchanges compared to, let's say, OKB or Binance BNB. At least it's listed on several exchanges. The one that is, I think, listed on most exchanges potentially is FTX compared to others, at least. And in my opinion, exchange listings do matter. So, for example, the coins that are listed on Binance could outperform BNB, but that's something I'm going to mention later as well. So maybe a pullback here and then higher, because again, this one has a very nice trend. And in my opinion, the fact that OKB had the recent pump, maybe some of that money turns back into the OK chain and it goes much higher. Of course, I don't know who is going to be using this one compared to BNB, which has a lot of people using it, at least, I mean, Binance Smart Chain. But again, that's a different story, and many things can change in the future. So next one is going to be Huobi, guys. In my opinion, Huobi potentially is the larger exchange, but you know, at least for now, maybe I cannot say that for sure. Maybe it's OKex, maybe it's FTX, depends on the criteria. A lot of the volume might be a little bullshit, but of course Huobi has a lot more coins. It's one of the bigger exchanges, at least it's one of those that I prefer compared to others, so I wish them the best. Now when it comes to the token, Huobi as well had a very nice cycle, very brutal actually, because at least BNB had a different cycle. Now Huobi and OKex launched, at least the tokens, much later than BNB, because those Chinese exchanges that had to move out of China and become global, well, they still have a cooperation with China, but they are not like exactly Chinese. They're not based in China right now. They couldn't really operate towards the end of the bull market, or at least in a big part of the 2017 bull market, due to the ban in China. So a lot of them had to move, and the price back then, at least when Binance was doing its ICO, Huobi and OKex were trying to find ways to operate. So they kind of launched a bit later, and that's why, in my opinion, Binance had a bit of an advantage against those exchanges. Now, when it comes to the price, again, full cycle doesn't look as great and not as clean as other coins. But in my opinion, once it starts breaking those highs, it could really get going, because up until now, it was below this trend line. That's why I didn't really like it. Now it's back above the trend line, looking fairly strong. It does have a little bit of overhead resistance right here, like as a whole. Like if I could just put this one and remove this, because in this whole area we have had so much resistance in the past. Clearly eventually it will break, but until I see that, I would expect a pullback down to this area. Of course, it could just keep ripping higher, but I do believe that the best place to be buying would be down there. So another coin for Huobi is the Huobi pool token, and right here you can see how it has been doing. Now I don't really know the market cap, but I don't like the coin. It's potentially for other stuff. There have been some use cases for Huobi pool token, but it hasn't gained the traction that, let's say, OKT has gained, because it's for something different. And I don't know, guys, if there is another token for Huobi. I think these are the only ones that exist. I tried to find some others. Now, of course, they have the MDX token on, you know, the Huobi chain, They have the HECO, which is the Huobi chain essentially, and this at least is not for Huobi chain, it's for something else, just the pool token. You do gain some stuff if you're staking on Huobi, in my opinion, at least that's what I know, but it's not something major, so I wouldn't really recommend it except if you want to buy it as a gem because it's undervalued. But because it's not trending, I cannot give you any recommendation on buying it right now. So next one, guys, it's FTX. It's one of the biggest ones, about $5-6 billion, and it's been going up essentially non-stop, pretty much no pullback, although it hasn't had a major pump. It's up 500%. It's not the biggest performer, it's not the best performer, but so far it's the most special one because of how its chart looks like. And in my opinion, at some point, like the same way it did this move and then it had an explosive move up, in my opinion, it will eventually have a very explosive move to the upside. For example, when you look at this, it was just when FTX had launched the token, it was doing pretty well. Now, the biggest pump it actually had was when it was actually moving against Bitcoin, when Bitcoin crashed. That's what pump actually was. It was very weird, and then it was behaving in very weird ways. So it has a very weird TA against Bitcoin, but currently it's been going up very nicely. No pullbacks, nothing. So far it's been breaking resistance consistently. And when I mean by pullback, I mean like a large pullback like this one. But for now, I do believe it's just going to keep performing pretty well. It's pretty much up about 80% since it broke that high and retested it. That's the only retest. This was never retested, or this one was never had a clean retest, although it was close enough with this pullback right there. And in my opinion, could easily double or triple from here, especially with the deal they've had with Miami Heat, where they're gonna sponsor Miami. We do know that Alameda and FTX overall are doing very well, so FTT could do very well too. Now, I don't think they have any decentralized exchange, in the sense that no decentralized exchange, let's say a chain, because they have Solana, they have that cooperation, which is a little bit of a drag to the FTX token. They also have very cheap fees anyways, so they can attract more users, but at the end of the day, the demand for the FTT token is smaller, and that's why it hasn't performed as well as Binance, although it's much smaller. But this doesn't mean it couldn't do well. I do expect big things from them overall. They're just one of the best exchanges in terms of performance and all that stuff, so just keep an eye on them, and especially now that they've had a big deal with Miami Heat for about 19 years, guys. This is just insane. The fact that they said we don't have to worry about what's going to happen, even then we have so much money that we don't care. That's just mad. So just imagine how strong they are and what you could be expecting from them. Now the next one is LEO or LEO, which is the Bitfinex token, the Bitfinex IEO. It happened back in back in May of 2019, because Bitfinex had all those issues with crypto capital and all that stuff, because they lost the money. At least the money was seized, but they could get them eventually back. So they raised about 1 billion, and that was a bit of an issue because that was a really big raise. And at the same time, there was so much competition popping up against Bitfinex, and they kind of were lagging substantially. Like, they don't have the same products, at least in terms of altcoins and cryptocurrencies in general. They are a top exchange. Like, they have the best trading engine potentially in terms of technology, and all the stuff they're doing for Bitcoin and the crypto ecosystem are massive. But it's just one of those things, guys, that they never really got the traction that they should have gotten, in my opinion. But LEO is like a gem where if you buy this, you could potentially be rewarded handsomely once they get the money back, because some of that money, at least from crypto capital or even from the big hack of 2016, is going to go into like market buying the LEO token, which could do very well. So far it has been lagging, but I wouldn't be surprised if eventually that just starts flying. Because Bitfinex, yes, there are less people that are using it, but remember, it's one of the biggest institutional platforms because they have some of the deepest liquidity right now in the market. So again, I wouldn't say much more in my opinion. Bitfinex again is one of the best exchanges, but unfortunately they didn't really keep up with the listings other exchanges have had and the liquidity. So of course they're not the best place for trading altcoins right now, but if you want proper liquidity, that's the best place to be and the most stable at the same time. So now let's get into some of the gems, guys. First one, Gate. Not listed on many exchanges, but it got recently listed on FTX, where it started doing very, very well. It's also listed on some other exchanges, clearly not on Binance, but I do believe they could get the token listed on other exchanges. In my opinion, it's one of the best exchanges for gems, if not the best, because they have tons and tons of gems. Now, a lot of them are proper shitcoins, so you should be avoiding them, so you should be very careful with what you buy. But the truth is that they have the most options in the market. Literally, they have, at least in terms of altcoins, the deepest liquidity for small caps and also the most amount of small caps out there. So they are about, the market cap of Gate token is about 1.6. They will also have their own chain if they haven't launched it already, because I think they were about to launch it many years ago, if I remember correctly, because they did a raise as well. But they didn't do anything up until now. Eventually, I do believe they're going to release the chain if they haven't already. Like I said, I haven't kept up, but that's also pretty big, because just think about it. When you have all those gems, if these gems, because of the Ethereum fees, they start trading, or you're able to withdraw them very easily through the Gate token, or the Gate chain, that would be pretty big. At least that's my opinion. And of course, with the Shiba Inu and all that stuff, because it was like those tokens have been trading on Gate, a lot of people have started migrating there, and we have seen the explosion in the token at the same time. Now, many of these exchanges, they haven't had many IEOs recently or many proper use case for the token, but at the same time, just remember that people are buying stuff because others are buying, or because the price is going up. And currently the momentum for Gate token is pretty nice. So I'm going to look at the price on Bitcoin, on actually the Gate exchange itself, and I want to do this, guys, because it's looking very nice. So what happened here was they had their IEO back when Bitcoin started rallying, so it dumped. Never really had any great performance, although it was added on Huobi and some other exchanges, and essentially it just was in a downtrend for 1.5 years, never really pumped or anything, and then it started going up nicely. Then it did find resistance right at the key broken support, and that's why it was one of those exchange tokens that was lagging initially. And of course, it was a gem, so no people knew about it. But after some time, once smaller coins started doing better, like after the Ethereum run started dissipating, at least the one in Q1, and then other tokens started doing better. They started doing very well as well, and right now it's pretty much back to where it was with its Bitcoin all-time high. So in my opinion, right here, maybe it does a little bit of a pause, because again, guys, I wouldn't recommend something that has gone up, at least to market buy something that's already up 200% in a few weeks, probably almost 3 weeks at this point. But it's strong. However, I would like to see a rejection a little bit at the resistance here, maybe some consolidation, and then potentially higher. At least that's usually how I like to see things, because I'd rather see this little pattern right there, you know, something like that, before I move in. And the reason that I'm showing you guys the chart on Gate is because right now the one on coin market cap is not the actual one. It's missing a lot of data. I couldn't really show you guys the all-time high versus Bitcoin, because that's what matters to me, at least, because of course all coins are pretty much at all-time highs versus the US dollar, at least the older ones. So there is not really a point in looking at those things. Again, look at how nicely it reclaimed that resistance level, similar to how BNB did with Bitcoin. Very similar way, although BNB did it faster, I think. And look at how initially that was the rejection. Then once it started breaking above this, very nice move up. And of course, this isn't like any major resistance, so it was able to slice through it very easily. Of course, like I said at the beginning of the video, I was very unfortunate because Gate was one of those I was thinking about it around those levels. Clearly, it had already pumped substantially before that as well. But I mean, at the time that I was thinking about making the video, I could have mentioned it to you guys and it would have been up 50%, which would be a nice gain. But of course, since the bottom, it's almost up 13x, 14x, so that's a pretty big run already. So I wouldn't really recommend to anyone to just rush in and buy, but just keep in mind the things that I said, because once you get a pullback in this area and we start seeing some consolidation like this, it will be pretty nice to add to our portfolios. Now the next one is going to be MXC, which is a nice gem. Now MXC, I can't have a Bitcoin chart, unfortunately, not even on CoinTrader Pro, because they hadn't really added it. Now MXC isn't trading even on its own exchange against Bitcoin, but it's trading against Ethereum. But up until now, it's been up about 170%. Excuse me, it's away from its all-time high versus Ethereum about 170%. But what that means actually is that this is at all-time highs versus Bitcoin, because when the all-time high came in the June of 2019, back then Ethereum was way below that level that it is right now. Potentially it was bottoming against Bitcoin, or it was very close to capitulating against Bitcoin. So at least from here, I'm pretty sure MXC is at all-time highs versus Bitcoin at the moment. So maybe it does a little pullback because it's close to those all-time highs, maybe because Ethereum does very well. But to me, even the Ethereum chart looks fairly nice because it has reclaimed that support. It had this nice full cycle right there. So we do know that even against Bitcoin, it had an even bigger capitulation. So I wouldn't be surprised if this does very well still, because again, it was one of those tokens, guys, that in the past, at least when the exchange had formed, had done very well. So it had this very big run, and now it's already had another very big run. And again, it was one of those guys that I didn't get the opportunity to mention to you, and it has gone up about 100% or even more since then. Because remember, I have mentioned these exchanges several times before on the channel, because these are the exchanges that I've been trading my gems on. These are the ones that I prefer, even from Uniswap and all that stuff, because it's nice to have some order books and some decent liquidity on some of them. And of course, just remember, for example, MXC had the ICP IOU when other exchanges didn't even have it many months ago. Also, Gate had the Shiba Inu token, and MXC had it as well. So many of them have tons and tons of tokens to trade from. So they have the innovation zone, where you can see tons of different coins. They have the assessment zone, where they have even better gems like Safe Moon and all that stuff. So of course, these are some of the exchanges that I would definitely recommend. Of course, I wouldn't say put tons of money in there, but the good thing with those exchanges is that because they are tetherized, they are mainly trading against Tether and maybe some pairs against Ethereum. The good thing is that they don't have big reserves of big coins that cannot be restored, and that's a very good thing for these tokens for these exchanges essentially to protect themselves from really big hacks from which they cannot recover. Because once you lose the big coins, you have big problems, whereas if you lose smaller ones, potentially the teams can help you restore your reserves. Now another small exchange, and I'll leave Kucoin for the last one. It's HBC, it's BHEX, BHEX. On Huobi, that coin is trading as HBC rather than, or HBTC. And this one also looks pretty cool right now. It hasn't had a massive move. This is not an exchange that I know or that I trust, but you can buy the token on Huobi. And at the moment, I like the fact that it's sitting very close to its all-time highs. It has been consolidating very nicely above that resistance, and it could eventually have a big breakout. So if, for example, I look at this token, HBC BTC on Huobi. That looks fairly hot in my opinion. It is a little bit slow again. It probably had a little bit of I don't know, the price redenomination or something. In the past it had already had one of those pumps, but again, if you look at the coin in this exchange, or at least on the chart of the exchange, you can see that's very, very close to its all-time highs, and it would be very nice if it would break it, because again, afterwards it would be open air. So MXC almost at all-time highs, or essentially at all-time highs. I cannot confirm it exactly, but it probably already is. Then at least I cannot do that on the chart. HBC nearly at all-time highs. Gate is reaching its all-time high, so maybe wait for a pullback and then get in. And then another one, guys, is Kucoin shares, Kucoin token, which also had a very, very big pump, probably one of the largest pumps from crypto exchange. Okay, 17x to 18x. And that's why it has had its pullback. It has pulled back to this key resistance zone. Very nice. Back then, Kucoin shares also had a pump when Bitcoin was dumping massively. So it wasn't like this was a pump from Kucoin exactly. Then it pulled all the way back to its all-time lows, versus Bitcoin actually went below its all-time lows. And Kucoin managed to survive a very big hack, probably one of the biggest hacks in crypto land, and that's why I say the tetherized exchanges probably have a better fate than the rest, because when you have tether, you can easily recover the funds. They can be frozen. So at least when it comes to Kucoin, that hack forced a capitulation. It made the capitulation way worse for Kucoin, and that's why, in my opinion, it pumped a lot harder. There are a lot of gems on Kucoin, also one of my favorite exchanges when it comes to gems, so it would complement Gate and MXC on the best ones. And they also have the proof of liquidity coin, where it's kind of like a platform where people are staking some of their tokens, and there are some rewards for those that hold this token. It has done very, very well. And again, I wouldn't really recommend it right now. Proof of liquidity, I hope I get it. Yep, there we go. And right now it's been pulling back, but look at how massive the pump has been from all the way down here all the way up. 35x, very massive. Again, look at how important it is, and that's why I like the HBC token a little bit, because you have that resistance, then that turns into support, and then eventually you have that very, very big breakout and massive pump. So again, I wouldn't really recommend this one right now, guys. I do believe it has pumped. It's probably topped already. It was also a coin that I was looking in the past. Unfortunately, I missed it, but I do mention it just as an honorable mention, because some of those tokens have done well. Maybe, who knows, maybe the Huobi pool token, which is kind of similar to this one, does very well. But for example, until I see it show some strength, I mean the Huobi token, the Huobi pool token, I would stay away from it. So that's it from me, guys. I hope you liked this video. It was a bit longer than usual, but I wanted to cover all the exchange tokens. Again, guys, please remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and of course, guys, you can follow me on Twitter, Telegram, and TradingView. So once again, thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.